It's time for EdTech Mondays, brought to you by MasterCard Foundation and CC Hub.
Welcome to EdTech Mondays Nigeria, a platform that facilitates critical conversations on the use of technology for teaching and learning. I am your host, Chinyelu Akpa, and it's great to be here again. For EdTech to drive meaningful improvement in learning outcomes, foundational infrastructure such as electricity, internet connectivity, and access to digital devices must be prioritized. However, many schools across Nigeria, particularly in underserved and rural areas, struggle with unreliable power, poor internet access, and a lack of adequate hardware to support technology-driven learning. Without addressing these fundamental gaps, EdTech adoption will remain fragmented and largely ineffective. On the EdTech Mondays show this month, our theme for discussion is driving foundational infrastructure investments for EdTech growth. Today, I'm joined by two amazing guests who will do justice to the conversation. Join me to welcome Olanrewaju Ogunkunle, who is a visionary entrepreneur and business leader, currently serving as the group CEO of Revo Cube Links, where he drives innovation across technology, media, real estate, and renewable energy. He has a background in physics, electronics, robotics, and information management systems, and is passionate about delivering smart technology solutions for business and the education sector. Hello, Olanrewaju Ogunkunle.
Thank you.
All right. And interestingly also, our second guest is also Olanrewaju.
Yes.
Another Olanrewaju. He is Olanrewaju Babajide, who is an Assistant Chief Education Officer at the Lagos State Ministry of Education, with over 12 years of experience in public and private education sectors. He was a radio teacher during the COVID-19 schools shutdown and has trained over 700 newly employed teachers on tech tools for teaching through TESCOM since 2021. He's also a Microsoft Innovative Educator, a certified British Council Core Skills Expert, and a recipient of the Lagos State Teachers Merit Award 2020. So, Olanrewaju too, welcome to EdTech Mondays. Good morning. So it's good to have you here. This month, as I said, we'll be exploring driving foundational infrastructure investments for EdTech growth. And I know that you're burning with so much to talk about. So let's just take it. Let's examine some of the key challenges, such as electricity, internet access, and devices. So my first question, and I'd like to start with you.
Okay.
Olanrewaju the teacher. Then you be Olanrewaju the CEO.
Okay.
Good? All right. So Olanrewaju the teacher,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
As a teacher and with your experience, and I know that you're now out of school. You've left the classroom.
No, I'm still in the
You're
classroom.
still in the classroom,
Yes.
so great.
Yes.
So what are some of the biggest infrastructure barriers preventing EdTech adoption in Nigerian schools?
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, let me start like this. I have this opinion that no country can develop beyond this level of education. Yes, very important. And I've found out that not only in Nigeria, but many African countries, the priority on education is quite low. If you check the budget, heavy on education, it's not enough to meet up with the teeming population of the young people we have. So some of the challenges and barriers we have, firstly, is the population. Most of the government schools are overpopulated. Well, I wouldn't say government is not trying. They are trying, but I believe there's still more to be done. If you go to most government schools, you find that some of them have their, ICT laboratories. Many might not be well equipped enough to help the students meet up with the standard that the world education system expects. And so I think it starts with infrastructure. The infrastructure, like not having access to devices, not having access to laptops. I know that if you look at the economy today, the economy rings a lot to determine whether a person has access to some of these technological, equipment or devices because they are quite expensive. And you find that most of them are the public schools we have in Lagos, most especially, and some others maybe are across Nigeria are basically free schools. And so we see that many of these students might not even be able to afford even the most simplest tool of education, which is the phone. And you can't write off the fact that without this, they cannot be able to develop certain skills that will be needed to meet up with their counterparts, most especially in the private sector. Those are in private schools, and others that might have access to it across the world. So not having access to device, not having access to electricity, having to struggle with electricity because you have devices, you don't have electricity, then it means you actually do not have anything. Then also we have many of the teachers that work in schools today. Some of them say they are trained in, when it comes to tech, but many of them can't really even access it.
All right.
Yes. So those are some of the challenges.
So you've mentioned the first thing is even the population. And although that doesn't really, look into digital infrastructure, but when you think about the population of the students and you match that with the available resources, it doesn't balance out nicely. Then you've mentioned also the costs, right, of getting these devices and internet access. And I think this is a very good point to start with, the growing cost of internet connectivity in Nigeria.
All right.
Olarewaju, the CEO, what do you have to say about this? How does this pose a challenge for EdTech adoption, EdTech growth in Nigeria? Because it's still the fundamental bit. There is no EdTech without internet, right? So
yes, thank you for having me again. So my story is actually synchronized with him. I think we're well synchronized in a lot of platforms.
Okay.
So I've been in that tech space for maybe about 15 years now.
Okay.
So I was building technology and I was excited, like, okay, this is improving the efficiency of schools. They operate better, staff are less fatigued, software is doing things, CBT and the likes. Until it dawned on me on a particular day, we'd set up CTPT for a school. A day before, a school of maybe about 1,000 students, massive IT lab and all those things. So we're there till like 1 a.m. setting up the computers, the CBT, make sure all computers are fine and the likes. And the next morning, they were ready to start exams. Then there was a power issue. Then from grid to generator failure, it was just like village people were after the entire
everything
workflow
that could
we've
go
done.
wrong
So
went
it was
wrong.
everything. Yes, everything went wrong.
Yeah.
And for schools like that, a lot of them are boarding facilities.
Okay.
The parents would have booked flights.
And these are private schools.
This is private.
These
Not
are
so it's
schools
on the
that can
public.
afford it.
Yes. So I've been in the private sector for a long while. And now, these are schools that the parents would have booked flights, come and pick up their wards. There's a fixed closing date, and that closing date must not change. And there's no point in parents coming to school and results are not ready. It's a no-no. So the school owner had to improvise. I'm like, okay, everybody, print out papers. CBT is not working. Let's start shading.
Going back to the
So
beginning.
now, picture it. You have 1,000 students. Let's say your school has a lot of teachers. Let's say 100 and something teachers. Good ratio, right?
Yeah.
You have 1,000 students taking an average of about 9 or 10 subjects. Junior secondary school takes way more than that,
Yes,
right?
15.
So let's just say 10 subjects on average, senior and secondary.
Yeah.
And each subject has multiple choice questions of about 100.
Oh, wow.
And they have just about 2 days to get results ready. When was the CBT? They are done in 15, 10 minutes. Even worst case, the whole day. The system marks the scripts and they just mark the theory and everybody's fine. They literally have to mark those amount of scripts. Teachers were burnt out. That's what I came to my reality that, see, we are joking in this country, we are building EdTech and there's no power infrastructure. If there's no internet, there's some things you can still process offline, you can still work something, and when the connectivity comes back, you can synchronize it. And funny enough, that's how I went to the power sector.
Oh, wow.
I went to power sector because of education systems. So we started providing power for schools. And until, in my opinion, I was discussing with him before we came into the studio that, in my opinion, the bedrock of the entire infrastructure is power. Internet costs went up because even the ISPs and the internet service providers, their major challenge is cost of power. They are burning diesel at their base stations. Their cost of power is affecting cost of logistics to move things to sites. And so if power is resolved, which is improving now, And as it's improving, the cost also going up. So it's a very
I have a burning question. I'm holding myself from asking this question right now. Let me just keep it in. I hope I don't forget it. But okay, let me go back to you, Olarimadi, the teacher. With all that he has said, what is now the impact? He has said some of them with, the impact of this, poor infrastructure, with the example he gave. Now, from your own point of view, what are some of these real life impacts on teachers, on students, and even learning outcomes when we cannot provide the baseline digital infrastructure to support EdTech? How does this play out? And I want you to talk to us from the point of view of both the rural schools and underserved, and even those in the rural, urban areas as well. So you would think about it from the public school sector and also from the private school sector, because EdTech is seriously causing a dichotomy, between the public school system and the private school system. We want it to bridge the gap,
but it's now
but are we
wider.
effectively, bridging that gap? So
Okay, I would say that some of the impact on teachers would be that they would not have access to some resource. So look at it, we are in 21st century and we say we are teaching 21st century kids. So imagine I need to teach volcano in a class. How do I get to do that? If not,
do we have volcano in geography?
Yes. We still have them.
Yes. I want to be sure that it has not been removed.
Yes, we still do.
Okay.
Or maybe the geography teacher wants to talk about the Mabila Plateau.
Okay.
You can't go to Taraba Gembu. So you need to show them. There are some virtual trips that you can take in your class.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
tech can offer or make it easy for you to do that. There are times you want to teach, for example, you teach English and you are trying to teach maybe pronunciation.
Phonics, yeah.
Let's not forget the fact that our language, it would interfere with the foreign language. So you do it better when you have access to some tech tools, maybe AI, language AI, tools that can help
just
pronounce.
basic tools that you can just play.
Thank
and
you.
hear it.
Audio
Doesn't have to
playback.
be audio playback.
Thank
Doesn't
you.
have to be so
So
complex.
it number one, it makes the job even difficult for the teacher because the teacher has to go through a lot of stress. Now in government school, we have sometimes the population in a class might be 120, 130.
We still have that.
Yes, we still do. We still do. Like I said, the economy. The truth is the economy. The public schools are like the saving point for some people right now with the present economy. So people are bringing their children back to public schools.
But I have a question.
Yeah.
I believe that we are working under a lot of assumptions. Are you saying categorically that even teachers in public schools are using technology for teaching? Is it the actual reality of the public school system in Nigeria? Because it's so easy, to paint a center of excellence story. But if I'm looking at a teacher in Bayelsa, if I'm looking at a teacher in Imo State, in Aba, is that their reality? Has the lack of digital infrastructure even disenfranchised them from the beginning and not even helping them come close? Because we have a teacher who thinks, first of all, I have to buy a phone, a smartphone, then, or a tab, right? Then I have to buy data.
With my
money. How much data? I have someone who was complaining yesterday that she recharged, she said, I think 15 gig. And in 2 days, she had done 7 gig already, right? So how does is this the actual reality? Okay. Is this the actual reality of a teacher? Do we actually have teachers that are using this? Because is it to say, they can't teach, they can't do this, they can't do phonics and the rest, but are they even using this? Are these things not even inhibiting them from coming on board at all? Yes.
Like, we said it, that these are some of the outcomes of not having some of these things. We can say in the urban area, it's easy to say that for example, I am still in the class. And so many times I make use of tech tools when I interact with my students. We do some remotely, maybe when they're at home, and sometimes I bring some to class where they can interact with. But when we look at underserved areas, like you said, maybe rural areas where they don't even have electrification. I remember I served in Takum, somewhere in Taraba, And where I served, I'm not sure that I'm well, let me not assume that in the next 3 or 4 years that they will get electrification, because they are not even poles for 6 hours moving on the road. So I feel such areas might be challenged, because to even get access to network, you have to stay under a tree. So I believe this challenge will, number one, affect the teacher. It will also even drowse the morale of that teacher. That teacher will see teaching as just, let me just work, and at the end of the day, get paid, and let government deal with them. And at the same time, the negative effect is that we keep producing, children or students that in turn will affect the society either positively or negatively. Also look at the fact that for the students, where it will affect them is that it will affect their skills. Some of them will be able to build tech skills. Imagine having students that need to, coming in contact with robotic parks for the very first time. They see, I'm a robotic teacher. I teach robotics. Wow. And so imagine a child that can't even code with EV3, software. Such a child, when he gets to the marketplace where he needs to use some of these tools, it will be a big problem for him. That's why we have a lot of graduates from the universities that some of them will say they studied computer science, but yet they can't build any software. Some will say they are computer engineers, but when they see, some laptops for the very first time, they are so confused.
And it's the whole thing starts from this, the lack of foundational digital infrastructure to
That's
support
where the problem starts from. Yes.
Learning.
Yes.
So now we've gotten some baseline, right? We've identified where we are with, digital infrastructure and how it affects learning. So what are some strategies that we need to start thinking about, or how do we need to start thinking about supporting digital infrastructure? And I don't think it is something that only the government can do.
Yes.
So what are some of the strategies?
So there are a lot of private sector CSR projects that go even to private institutions and public institutions, do projects and commission. You see fantastic laboratories on TV, power, internet, all sorted. The major problem I think we also have is sustainability. You see sometimes we take a step forward and maybe 5 steps backward because nobody's monitoring and evaluating these systems. You can be a very nice woman and feel like going to your alma mater or find a school around maybe your area and just decide to bless them with some computers. You've done your bit and you're fine, you're excited, and you've gone. Those computers can tell you in 3 months, it's either some teachers have picked them up and it's no more available for students. There was a time we donated some computers, one of my NGOs, in some schools in the Ogun State, some years back. And we just had a surprise visit. They were telling me about it. And we got back there. They were sending us reports that, students are learning, this. They were just sending emails. But by the time we got there, the entire computer lab was filled with staff watching movies with the computers.
Wonderful.
So you can see that a lot of mental shift has to be involved, because if that is not focused on in terms of how to sustain this infrastructure, if government decides to maybe take up after this conversation now, all schools, we are deploying power and internet and we're solving this problem. I can tell you in 6 months, 8 months down the line, things are still going down the drain. But the little bit we have in these systems, in the infrastructure, in terms of power in these schools, in terms of connectivity, can we just maintain those ones steadily to make sure that instead of spending more on creating this new, maybe bringing in new tablets, bringing in new screens and computers for these schools, the ones we've deployed, can we have a proper structure around how to maintain them? And that's one of my biggest concerns right now.
Like what you actually said, we know the government is also trying to see how they can partner with the private sector to, build on the infrastructure. But what he said is right. If we continue to deploy this infrastructure, but it's not properly maintained. So we, at the end of the day, we will still go back to ground zero. Yes. So it's very important that even after the infrastructures, are being deployed, there's need for monitoring. Let it get to the right set of people.
Yes.
Then also I want to say something that, the right set of people also should be making decisions when it comes to EdTech in Nigeria.
Who are these right set of people?
Yes, the stakeholders.
The real stakeholders.
The stakeholders. Yes, we have some of them are the teachers. We have people in the Ministry of Education. But we need people that are not just that tech. You know about tech doesn't make you.
Yes. So building software for school. So for example, even as going that far, there are situations where even in private sector, I will talk more in private sector. A school owner maybe traveled abroad or just came to town, you were in an exhibition, you saw something fantastic for your school. And like, oh, please come and deploy this for my school. And literally, you can read the body language of teachers that they are very livid that this is another stress you are bringing to us. You didn't inform us, you are bringing this. After I write a note, I have to type it and send it to you on one platform again. So that time that's not involving, what you said, stakeholders and having proper conversations with them, informing them ahead. Oh, I'm a school owner. Oh, staff. So we are bringing in this infrastructure.
Yeah, the design thinking.
This is the end goal. We are trying to use to solve your problem.
Yes.
But when teachers see that, oh, as I'm coming in, I have to read the fingerprint to show my attendance. Be like, oh, monitoring spirits. This. You put camera in the classroom. Oh no, you want to start checking if you are in class. So there's a barrier they've built already, and if they are not carried along, we are really at risk of not even having any positive learning outcomes.
Okay, this has been a beautiful way to start this conversation. Don't worry, that question I had to ask, I'm still keeping it. To you, our listeners, we'd love to hear from you. Are you a teacher or a guardian or parent to a learner? What are some of the challenges you have encountered towards using technology to support your words or for teaching? Our guests have spoken about cost of devices, internet connectivity, cost of data bundles right now, power, band A, B, C, D to G. How has this affected your ability to teach effectively, or how has this affected the ability of your learners to get on board these platforms and utilizing them, taking advantage of these tools, resources to improve their learning outcomes? We would love to hear from you. Send us an SMS or a WhatsApp message, 0703-165-0809. You could also join our very active Telegram and WhatsApp channels to continue this conversation. Simply search for EdTech Mondays Nigeria, and you can find us there. Join the channels, join the groups, and continue. Let us know what you think. Again, the question: how has the absence, of digital infrastructure affected you as a teacher, or you as a guardian or a parent to a learner, being able to teach effectively, or for the learners being able to learn and improve their learning outcomes? We'd love to hear from you. So thank you, Olarewajus, for gracing our hot seats today. We have had a very good time listening to you. Hope you can spare us some more time next week, because we know that we have some more bits to share with the listeners.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And until I come your way same time next week, I remain your host, Chinyelu Akpa. Be sure to listen to us again on Spotify at EdTech Mondays Nigeria, or watch this live recording or the replay of this recording on YouTube at CC Hub Africa, and keep using technology to test and push the frontiers of education in Nigeria. It's bye for now.
It's time for EdTech Mondays, brought to you by MasterCard Foundation and CC Hub.